Now we are back at the retreat clinics once again to get a little bit of an update on our Mindfulness Hub. And I love coming here because, first of all, I learned so much about things that I didn't know about before, but it also gives us an opportunity to speak to people that really know what's going on here and how to help you watching. So first of all, could you just introduce yourself and what your role is here at the retreat clinics?
I'm Dr. Thomas Elanjithara. I'm a consultant psychiatrist and I'm a specialist in assessment and treatment of ADHD and autism and brain disorders. And we've been part of the setting up the adult ADHD clinic over a retreat in 2017 and have been supporting and been part of the team working with an amazing multidisciplinary team here for the last 8 years.
Wow, quite an extensive bit of experience you've got then, Dr. Thomas. And what we're going to go through today is we're going to sort of focus in on ADHD, aren't we? So can you just give us a sort of general overview of the things that we're going to be covering in our chat today?
So this is about helping people to understand what ADHD is and what can be done about it in a very positive, hopeful way that we can be part of that journey for people. So essentially, you must have heard a lot of chatters about ADHD and there's a lot of kind of misconception about it as well and lack of understanding. Essentially, ADHD is a neurodevelopmental condition, so that means one is born with it, but it's a lifelong difference in the way the brain matures and functions. So it is not a problem with the intelligence, it is not a problem with the personality. It is certain parts of the brain tend to mature at a different rate compared to the other. And that makes difference in how someone controls their impulses, so their activity, their emotions, and how they function on a day-to-day basis. You might find someone amazing and brilliant in certain things, whereas everyday tasks could be a challenge. And people get overwhelmed with emotions sometimes and find it difficult to regulate themselves in that process. So this is a condition where that affects about 5 to 7% of the population. So it's quite common, much common than we think it is actually. And in the UK, the current diagnostic rates are much lower than what's expected rates are. And that kind of explains why a lot of people are now realizing and identifying the traits and the intricacies in themselves and seeking help. So people are asking a very legitimate, valid question about and trying to understand themselves and their lives, basically. And that's where we come in, and that's where the retreat clinic comes in, providing a very compassionate, helpful, and a comprehensive understanding of what's going on in their life, so that we can take them through this journey, help them understand, find solutions, and support people through that journey to improve their life and attain their potential.
For somebody watching right now, Thomas, who might be asking the question, what causes ADHD? You know, where does it come from? What can you show us about that?
ADHD is a genetic condition. So that means the gene imprints are causing that level of vulnerability in someone. Does not mean that everyone with that genetic makeup tend to have ADHD as a presentation. So there's always the gene and environment interaction where sometimes those genes are switched off and exposing certain environmental conditions like early childhood, the environment they grow up, exposure to other toxins and certain situations might switch that gene process on. So that leads on to how certain parts of the brain matures. And like I said before, it is not a problem or difficulty with the intelligence or how the overall functioning of the brain, but certain parts which controls the self-regulation. So essentially ADHD is a condition of regulation difficulties where they might have the intelligence and ability to do certain things and pretty much anything that every other person can do. But in terms of how the functions and emotions are regulated, that's where the difficulty comes in. So, Laura, just to help understand what's happening in the ADHD brain and how things are slightly different in the ADHD brain compared to to others who don't have ADHD, just kind of a bit of an introduction of certain parts of the brain which controls important functions in regulation, as we were speaking before. So you got your reward center. This is your drive center. This motivates us actually. So this is kind of the pleasure center, the reward. This is thalamus, and that helps to filter out all the inputs coming into the brain, which includes the sound, the vision, the smell, the sensations, our own impulses and our own inner body sensation, and what's happening around us in outside our body. So that filters out the unwanted signals out and just sends the right amount of signals into the rest of the brain. And now you have the conscious, which is basically our intention. This is our kind of the master switch, almost like this is our cortex. So these three centers are connected in a loop, which balances, which works smooth and effortlessly most of the time for most people. So you go to a classroom, you've been told that if you ignore all the other sounds, you just need to sit there and focus and study. So that's what the master switch asks the rest of the areas to take care of. That means all your impulses are under control. It filters out just enough all the other unwanted inputs away, and then the classroom, it's fine, and the child is able to focus. But what happens in ADHD is that the connection between these areas are flawed. So there's a lot of tripwiring happening. There's a lot of kind of difficult filtering, controlling impulses, and in a way, eventually the intention just gives up.
Right.
So it is that level of chaos that we're talking about that happens, and it varies in people, because some of the people with ADHD may have particular difficulty in certain aspects. They have more inattentive, whereas others are more hyperactive. And there are times when people get really stuck to one thing and then tend to hyper-focus, purely driven by a certain motivation, whereas disregarding everything else. So it's that sort of connection we're talking about, and we'll come back to it as we go along and finding out our way through this process.
I love that you've done that, because I'm a visual learner. So I feel like being able to actually see physically kind of the differences to a brain that's with someone that's got ADHD and somebody that hasn't, it is really helpful. So it's great that we'll come back to that. So what I want to talk about now is the sort of difference between ADHD in children and in adults, because particularly of late, I feel like whilst people are learning more these days about ADHD, there are a lot of diagnoses that are happening later on in life. And so we might sort of understand quite a bit about ADHD in children, but not so much about ADHD in adults. And I'm assuming that they sort of present themselves in different ways. So could you speak to us a little bit about the difference?
In children, ADHD tend to be more visual and physical. So you might hear about kids who really sort of run around, climb, difficulty in kind of getting themselves sort of sat down in the class. Or they might be daydreaming actually. So because there are lots of kind of structures and facilities put in normal schools that one is expected to be kind of picked up early and then found to have some difficulties and hopefully get the right amount of help. And again, coming back to this, in children, the level of intention, that is a growth matter actually, because it is a level of the kind of growth that people develop with time. So with the children with ADHD, you tend to have more of evidence from the filter difficulties where they are very inattentive or daydreaming, or they're very hyperactive running around. Because you're not expecting children to develop a higher level of conscious and overriding control, because it takes time. And that is what is happening in adults, because as one grows up, our own intentional aspects tend to take more over control, and it really desperately control the other areas which are not kind of going in line with it actually. So you'll see as one grows up, the higher order control of trying to suppress these difficulties tend to be more prominent, and that's what we tend to see actually. So you'll see the hyperactivity moves from body to mind. So compare to a child who's running around and finding a difficulty to sit in the classroom, to someone growing up into someone who's really difficult in controlling their overthinking. It becomes an emotional journey at that point. They find it difficult to switch off, develop other secondary difficulties and sleep problems and find other ways to cope. So it is a desperate attempt to kind of internal coping and compensating that goes on, which eventually lead to people having fatigue and emotional draining. And that's tend to be the most of the picture with adults with ADHD. It is also important to understand what the systems around people. So if the parents are overcompensating and they're kind of providing that lot of structure and support and almost trying to be this part of the child, actually just taking care of the rest of the systems. And some of the children are able to gradually develop the connections with that level of support, and if they identified and got the support early on, it helps them with the brain catch up almost like to some extent, and their symptoms will be better managed. But for kids who've not been diagnosed as a child, there develops a situation where all kind of compensating and complementing mechanism tend to work for a long period of time until it does not. And that's when most of our clients find there is something going on here that they need help with, and that's where we come in and help them through that journey. In terms of the points where one is likely to come across as major difficulties, or if you think of someone who moved out of their family home into university, getting the first job,
big life changes,
big life changes. Being in a relationship, having their own kids, and all of that actually kind of changes, the demand structure changes, and they find their ability to self-regulate and be available, be responding to their changes can be difficult. Job progression in jobs, again, someone might be coping at a medium start level, then they get promotion, and some of the difficulties start to come in. Also, particularly in women, around the time of menopause, the long-term compensatory mechanism, they held that together for that long, tend to fade away, and they find it more difficult. So there are times in life which brings out what they've always been struggling within.
I think it's really important now more than ever that we have a wider understanding of ADHD, because, like you say, some people don't, find out about it until later on in life. So it is interesting to see the sort of difference between the children and adults. And I'm assuming as well that it's not a label, ADHD, we talked about some of the signs, some of the possibilities, but it's a personal experience, and your experience of ADHD might be completely different to another adult or another child who's got ADHD. So can you talk us through some of the kind of signs and behaviours that might be different, and why it's important not to just put one label on it?
It's so important to understand the person's journey and someone as a holistic person, because everybody has different imprints, different life experiences, different genetic makeup, and also essentially different personality. So one person might be coping and compensating completely different to other person. For someone, it might appear all is calm and fine and organized in the outside, but they might be struggling inside with certain things. They might have some other health condition or psychological condition compensating, like obsession, anxiety, sleep problem. Sometimes some people tend to have some addiction difficulties with alcohol, purely to manage and self-regulate and manage the sleep and other behaviors. It is important to understand what happened with the right person, because no two ADHDs are the same. So the more comprehensive understanding you have about the nuances and the intricacies of someone's presentation, you're able to better help with specific interventions and even selection of some of the medications. We'll be coming back and we'll be talking about that later.
And I'm assuming because it's a personal experience, because the signs and behaviours can be so different across the board, it can become quite difficult to identify the condition. And I know even personally myself, and I know a lot of my peers have done this, where, you know, you watch a video of, say, the 5 top signs of having ADHD, and you go, oh, I think I tick all of those boxes. I think I've got, and there are so many things that could be a sign of ADHD or could just be a sign of being human, right? You know, we all overthink, we all have certain behaviours. So can you talk a little bit about then the barriers of actually being able to identify and diagnose ADHD in somebody when it's such a spectrum?
That's a good question about the barriers of diagnosis. And there are a particular group who find it difficult to identify and also seek help. As we said earlier, people with autism who have a number of intricacies that tend to compensate the inner chaos until it reaches a point of failure and struggle. And for most of the people, they look more organized than other people because they got the autism too, which is undiagnosed, and they wonder themselves, the ADHD is about attention and poor organization. So I'm super organized, and in fact, I'm so stuck with certain things. So how can I have ADHD? So there's this kind of question baffles not just people seeking help, but some of the professionals who are not that experienced in picking up that this person has both ADHD as well as autism. And they're intelligent, they're high functioning, but things are not working out here. So the more you look deeper into their difficulties, and as we were saying before, about that personalized approach, finding what happens with this person, or who is this and what's the story, and then you know this is what is happening, and then you're able to help them. It is also difficult for high functioning women to pick up the signs and seek help or be understood by professionals who are not that experienced in understanding the nuances there. Typically, you have someone who have done well academically, have holding down a job, keeping the family together, but really struggling internally, being very self-critical, always anxious about getting something wrong, and finding really overwhelming experiences. So one needs to really kind of think very carefully and understand the presentation and the person to help them.
So if you are one of those people who is sort of recognising the signs then and you're sort of thinking, you know, maybe I do have ADHD, what comes next in the process? You know, in terms of here at the retreat clinics as well, what does the referral process look like? And then, of course, the assessment, what does that look like for somebody?
Should we try to make this as simple as possible? Because people are overwhelmed, going through great difficulties. So we've actually put together a very easy, simple, straightforward process. So our clinical staff will be very helpful in getting back to people who've left a message or dropped us an email and getting as comprehensive and helpful information from you about your presentation. It's always important to get some informant history, someone who have known you for a long period of time, could be a family member, a close friend, who are able to kind of talk about how you behave in everyday scenarios, really. And that leads on to a very comprehensive assessment by an experienced consultant psychiatrist, and looking deep into your journey, your childhood, how you grew up, what was there and what were the difficulties at the time, what worked at the time, and what's different now, actually. And kind of getting more understanding of your current presentation, what's working for you, how are you coping, and are there any other conditions that's almost sort of superseding the presentation, and is there ADHD, is there autism, is there other conditions that's going along with it? So it's a very comprehensive piece of work, mainly done through an interview. We have online facilities, as well as sometimes it is good to drop in and see the person face to face. Always makes more sense for everybody. Our assessments are complemented by some psychometric testing, which in some ways tease out in a test condition some of the difficulties that might be underpinning the condition. So it's almost like kind of putting a jigsaw piece together, and the more pieces you have a better visual of what you're looking at, and then you understand better. So after the assessment, we feedback and give a very clear explanation and a formulation of not just a diagnosis. It's not like a COVID test where you have a test negative or positive. It is about understanding, is this condition? What else is there? And how is that presenting, and what can be done about it? So it's a very personalized understanding and formulation and explanation that we give, and help them through that.
That's amazing. And I think the work that you guys do here is helping so many people. And it's something that you guys do at retreat clinics, and you do it really, really well, is not leaving people sort of feeling like they then don't know what to do. I think that can be quite scary. Somebody coming into this, you've got the diagnosis, then what? You feel like your whole life may have changed, and you've now got to react and sort of change your environment or change the way you work and things like that, and sometimes you can feel like you're just left in the lurch with that, but that's not what you guys do. You've got a lot of post-diagnosis support, haven't you?
That's correct. We're part of a very comprehensive team of multidisciplinary staff, including psychologists, occupational therapists, and we are able to help people very comprehensively, not just with the medication, but behavioral changes, coaching, learning about what's going on, and the most hopeful way, because people are in a state where they've tried everything that they could and things haven't worked out. So it is very important to kind of give the hope that things could be made different, and also providing the right help, right? Not overwhelming or throwing a lot of medications or intense coaching, but sometimes that is required. But for most people, it is a journey to understand what's going on and be self-compassionate and help them to be less self-critical and develop new ways of coping. Medications help, and there's good evidence for that, but it works really well if you combine that with coaching, intervention, and education and lifestyle changes. So all together, it helps the brain to learn new techniques. Coming back to this, to kind of even help with the neuroplasticity, rewiring a little bit where it can be. And in a way, people always ask, is it going to change me as a person? For good.
Yeah.
And they're always going to be who they are, because that's their personality and that's the person, but they could function better and be less self-critical and be more self-compassionate, and that makes a huge difference. It is a life-changing diagnosis. It's a life-changing understanding, and it is worth going through that process.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I can speak kind of firsthand on this, because I've got a family member who has been diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, and it kind of all just made sense all of a sudden to everybody, including that family member. And I have noticed how much their life has changed. And before getting the diagnosis, their biggest worry was, the biggest question was, is it going to change me? Is it, I love my kind of scatty personality, and, am I going to be mellowed out? Am I going to be a different person? And it's kind of important to get across that, no, it's not going to change your personality, but it's going to help you function better in life. And that's going to make your life better, and I've seen that firsthand happen, which is fantastic.
That's great. That's a great experience. It's
It's amazing. Is there anything else you want to touch on in terms of medication and treatment?
Okay, so there are two types of medication which are licensed in treatment for ADHD. One is a stimulant type of medication, the other is a non-stimulant type of medication. So essentially what the difference between the two is, the stimulant, which are amphetamine-based medication, tend to put the signals up in the circuit. So as we've talked earlier, there's lots of disconnection and imbalance in the way the regulatory functions are happening. So stimulants tend to just put an extra voltage or power into the whole system. So the connections between all these areas where the filter, the motivation and reward center, and your intention center, which is the higher power area, all of that goes a little bit more smoother, ever so close to how it should be. With stimulants, it is time limited effect. So you have medications that are in the system for about 4 to 6 hours, sometimes up to 10 hours. It's quite good to help kids at school, university students, people who do intense kind of high demand jobs requiring a lot of focus and attention, sitting in meetings in offices, and doing a lot of documents and mundane repetitive tasks. So it helps to really put the filters on. That means all unwanted signals are screened off. It helps to control the impulses so they don't have to kind of run off and do more exciting thing, and they don't get easily bored. And then whatever the intention is there, it can take control. So a lot of people ask, will it give me new ideas? No, it's only going to help you develop and implement all the great ideas you always had. It's just that now you're able to do it, actually.
Yeah.
With the non-stimulants, they work differently in the sense that it helps more of a repairing and building new bridges and connections between the filters and the reward centers and your higher cortex centers. So it takes a bit of a time for that to happen, but the effects are more sustained.
Right.
And the advantage is that it helps with overall functioning. It helps with anxiety and mood changes that may be underneath. But it takes a bit of a time and requires a bit of patience. So it depends on what one's presentation is. You can choose between stimulant medication or a non-stimulant, and sometimes it's a combination of the two.
Wow, I didn't know any of that. I just thought there was one medication and then you just, deal with it. But yeah, that's really, really interesting to know. If somebody's watching this right now and they've listened to everything you've had to say and they're looking at then the next step, but they want the next step with you guys because, let's be honest, you're the best in the business and you are fantastic here and you've got so many you've got so much to offer the public of North Yorkshire. So how can the clinic help?
At the Retreat Clinic, which has a strong tradition of helping people in a very compassionate and helping manner, we are here to listen to you. We're here to understand what's going on with you and give you very specific, person-specific, individualized advice and support. And it is important that we go at your pace and in a way to see where you want to take your life and how you want to improve it. And we have a range of facilities available in pharmacological medication options from other interventions, coaching, psychological support, and also we have facilities for complex psychological therapies as well. So at any level, right from the early stages to someone who has tried various things, that hasn't worked, to improve what they're already trying, and sometimes it is a matter of just a minor tweak here and there. Sometimes it is a matter of just some advice. Other times it is a bit more comprehensive, sitting down with a psychologist and understanding certain nuances and intricacies and work through them. And sometimes it is a little bit more complex, and at any level we are able to help people and support you through this.
Amazing. Well, you can head to the Retreat Clinic's website to find out more, and you can look on this Mindfulness Hub page to find signposting in how to get a referral or how to start the process. before I let you go, Thomas, first of all, thank you so much for giving us all that information. You've been fantastic, and I've certainly learned a lot today, so thank you. Before I let you go, is there anything else that you want to touch on? Anything that we may have missed? I know it's a very big question, that, because there's so much, such a breadth of information. But is there anything that you want to touch on before we go?
No, thank you very much, Laura, for coming here and having a chat with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.